some Marvel heroes arrived with explosive debuts, the kind that made fans certain a future icon had just been born. A new character who overshadowed entire Avengers rosters on day one. A cosmic powerhouse introduced with hype so massive, Marvel teased him as the next era-defining champion. And street-level heroes whose first issues promised long-running legends, only for Marvel to drop them, ignore them, or bury them in forgotten storylines. These weren't minor names. They were contenders for greatness. So which legendary debuts did Marvel completely wasted? Here are 10 Marvel characters with legendary debuts that Marvel completely wasted. At number 10, we have Darkhawk, who was introduced in 1991, arriving with the kind of explosive promise that made readers believe a major new Marvel icon had just taken flight. His debut in Darkhawk issue 1 showed teenager Chris Powell discovering a mysterious amulet that transformed him into a powerful armored Avenger, and the reveal felt bold and electrifying. Marvel promoted him as a fresh and imaginative hero, and fans instantly saw the potential in a character who straddled the line between everyday teenager and alien-enhanced warrior. The early issues positioned him for major growth as he moved quickly into teams like the New Warriors and the Avengers, signaling that Marvel wanted him to stand beside their biggest names. However, the decline began in the later stretch of his original series, especially as sales dropped leading into the mid-40s, and by the time issue 50 arrived, the book was canceled and the momentum he had built was gone. Despite this, his striking design and the emotional foundation of a young hero trying to control immense power still inspire a loyal group of readers who continue to hope for a lasting revival. At number 9, we have Speedball, who was introduced in 1988, arriving with the kind of energetic debut that made readers believe Marvel had uncovered its next breakout young hero. His first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man Annual 22 presented Robbie Baldwin as a college student suddenly empowered by unstable energy that caused him to ricochet through any environment with explosive force. Marvel launched him with enthusiasm, giving him a colorful costume, a lively origin, and enough momentum to immediately justify a solo title that mirrored the youthful tone of early Spider-Man stories. The setup positioned him as a rising star destined to stand alongside Marvel's leading teen heroes through the New Warriors, where he was framed as a bright and confident figure ready for larger events. However, the fall began as his own solo series struggled, and by issue 10, the book was canceled, cutting off the rise he was meant to have. The shift away from lighthearted characters pushed him into minor supporting roles. Even after his transformation during Civil War changed his identity, many readers still hold on to the promise of his original debut and hope he can reclaim the potential he once carried. At number 8, we have Thunderstrike, who was introduced in 1988, beginning as Eric Masterson in Thor issue 391, where he entered the story as a normal architect unexpectedly pulled into the world of gods. His rise became unforgettable when Marvel later transformed him into Thunderstrike, giving him an Odin-forged mace and presenting him as a heroic successor who had once stepped in for Thor himself. His debut as Thunderstrike carried the weight of a passing torch, as he served with the Avengers and stood in positions normally held by Asgard's greatest champions. Marvel set him up as a major new force, launching his solo title in 1993 and framing him as a long-term Asgardian player. However, the fall began during the later stretch of his solo run, and by Thunderstrike issue 24, the series was canceled and his story ended with his death. Even with that final chapter, readers still connect deeply with Eric's journey, remembering a grounded man who briefly held divine power and hoping for the legacy he never fully received. At number 7, we have the Sentry, who was introduced in 2000, first appearing in the Sentry issue 1, where Robert Reynolds emerged as a forgotten powerhouse restored to the modern era, with extraordinary strength and a history that connected him to major heroes. His debut felt monumental, showing a figure who carried the presence of a long-lost legend and displayed feats that placed him among Marvel's most powerful characters. Marvel positioned him immediately for greatness, bringing him into the New Avengers and placing him at the center of cosmic-level conflicts that suggested he was meant to stand with the company's most important icons. However, the fall began during New Avengers issue 10, where the focus shifted heavily toward his struggle with the Void, reshaping him from a hopeful champion into a dangerous uncertainty. By the time of the Siege storyline, his role collapsed completely when he became the force that destroyed Asgard before being killed. Ultimately, Marvel gave up on Bob Reynolds entirely. Today, the original Sentry remains dead in the comics, having been officially replaced by a new successor named Solaris, Mallory Gibbs, leaving the original Golden Guardian as nothing more than a memory of wasted potential. The next three heroes pushed Marvel's imagination even further. A man who carried the universe's mark, a woman who led gods, and warriors who burned bright before vanishing into silence. At number 6, we have Starbrand, who was introduced in 1986, first appearing in Starbrand issue 1 as the central figure of Marvel's new universe, where Ken Connell received an otherworldly mark that granted him immeasurable power. His debut felt enormous, showing an ordinary man suddenly capable of unleashing destructive force on a scale that few Marvel characters had ever displayed. The story positioned him as the driving energy of an entire new line, suggesting he might one day stand beside Marvel's greatest cosmic heroes. However, the fall began with Starbrand issue 12, when the destruction of Pittsburgh derailed the direction of the series and forced Marvel to cut back on its ambitious plans. The title never recovered from that moment, and by issue 19, the series was canceled, bringing Ken's journey to an abrupt halt. Even so, many readers still feel a strong connection to his explosive beginning and continue to imagine how far the Starbrand legacy could have gone if his story had been allowed to grow. At number 5, we have Captain Marvel 2, who was introduced in 1982, first appearing in the Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16, where Monica Rambeau gained her extraordinary energy powers and immediately stepped onto the world stage as the first woman to hold the Captain Marvel name. Her debut was powerful and emotional, showing a young harbor officer transformed into a hero capable of manipulating light itself. Spider-Man brought her to the Avengers, where she trained beside legendary heroes and quickly proved she belonged among them through missions that demonstrated her enormous potential. However, the fall began in Avengers issue 273, where she was critically injured during a mission and lost control of her powers, marking the moment Marvel started reducing her prominence. This setback led to her losing the Captain Marvel title and being moved into supporting positions. Even so, readers still hold a deep connection to the brilliance of her introduction and continue to believe Monica Rambeau deserves the stature she displayed the moment she first appeared. At number 4, we have Deathcry, who was introduced in 1993 in Avengers issue 363 as a fierce young Shi'ar warrior sent by Lilandra to protect the Avengers. Her entrance was dramatic and unforgettable, showing a mysterious fighter who struck down a Skrull moments after appearing and immediately proved she could stand beside Earth's greatest heroes. Her presence carried the weight of an Imperial command, making it clear that she was meant to be part of the Avengers' future. However, the fall began in the late 90s when she was quietly written out of the team. Her story came to a tragic and sudden end years later in Annihilation. Conquest, Star-Lord issue 2, where she was killed in a minor skirmish, a disrespectful end for a character introduced with such imperial importance. After that moment, Deathcry disappeared from the team without follow-up stories or development. Her sudden removal left a gap that readers felt deeply because her introduction promised a long journey that never came. Her short time with the Avengers still leaves fans remembering the potential she showed the moment she arrived. The final 3 remind us how quickly greatness can fade. Cosmic heirs dethroned, dreamborn protectors forgotten, and one spirit of vengeance left behind by her own fire. At number 3, we have Vulcan, who was introduced in 2006 in X-Men. Deadly Genesis issue 1 as Gabriel Summers, the hidden brother of Cyclops and Havoc, whose arrival reshaped the entire mutant world. His debut exploded across the page with overwhelming force, showing a young man who mastered energy on a terrifying scale and challenged the X-Men from the moment he appeared. He rose even higher when he seized the Shi'ar throne and plunged the galaxy into the War of Kings, proving he could stand among the most dangerous figures Marvel had ever created. However, the fall began in War of Kings issue 6, where his final battle with Black Bolt ended with his apparent death and brought his reign to a sudden close. After that, Vulcan vanished from ongoing stories and never received the follow-up arcs his introduction promised. His brief, intense rise still lingers with readers who remember the shock of discovering a Summers brother powerful enough to threaten entire empires. At number 2, we have Sleepwalker, who was introduced in 1991 in Sleepwalker issue 1, where the strange guardian from the mindscape first emerged through Rick Sheridan's dreams and stunned readers with a concept unlike anything Marvel had offered at the time. His debut captured imaginations immediately. showing an alien protector battling living nightmares while trying to safeguard the young student who unknowingly brought him into the world. Marvel supported him with a full ongoing series and even placed him in major events like Infinity War, signaling that he was meant to grow into a long-term hero with a place alongside the larger Marvel cast. However, the fall began in Sleepwalker issue 33, when his solo series ended and his presence in ongoing stories came to a halt. After that final issue, he faded from regular publication and appeared only in scattered guest roles. Even so, readers who remember his debut still cherish the emotional spark of a hero born from the realm of dreams. At number 1, we have Ghost Rider Alejandra Jones, who was introduced in 2011 in Ghost Rider Volume 7, Issue 1, where a young Nicaraguan woman stepped into the role of the Spirit of Vengeance with a debut that felt bold and full of promise. Her story began with the intensity of a hero forged from childhood to inherit a powerful and dangerous mantle, and her first issues showed her confronting Mephisto and riding into battle with a fire that made readers believe she was destined for long-term greatness. Marvel positioned her beside major figures, even placing her in Circle of 4 alongside Red Hulk and Venom, which signaled that she was being prepared for a future among Marvel's frontline heroes. However, the fall began in Ghost Rider Volume 7, Issue 9, when her solo run ended and her momentum came to a sudden stop. After that point, she appeared only in rare guest spots, though many readers still remember the emotional power of her fiery debut. Thanks for watching the video, comment down below your favorite part, and let us know also, press the subscribe button and press the bell icon for regular updates.